A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish. I am joined today by Chris Savage, co-founder and CEO of Wistia. Chris, how's it going today, man?
Pretty darn good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. I am really excited to hear more of the story, not only for myself, but for our audience. I loved reading the blog post recently on why you and Brendan decided to take on debt rather than sell the company at Wistia. And I love the story here, and I'm really excited to share it with the rest of our audience. Before we do that, I would love for you to give a brief introduction, Chris, for those of you who aren't familiar with you and the team at Wistia. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what the team at Wistia is up to these days.
Absolutely. So at Wistia, we're trying to help companies use video better and communicate better with video. We have a bunch of different things to do that. We have the core product that we started working on over a decade ago, which is hosting, management, and analytics of video for your website. You can understand how videos are performing on your site. You can add interactivity, see how people are watching second by second. Basically, all the tools for a marketer to really help them get more out of video on their website. We built a product, our second product, our sophomore product, last year, and launched it last year, called Soapbox, which is a Chrome extension that lets you record your webcam and your screen simultaneously, and then add transitions between those screens. It's all put in the cloud. It's all super fast. We see it used a lot in like sales and support and internal company communication. And then actually, we're probably mostly known these days for the content we make. So we figured out, very fortunately for us, probably like 6 years ago, that if we could teach people about things that weren't our products and we could help them use video better, that we could really grow an audience. And so I think at this point we've created almost 1,500 videos a year teaching people how to use video better, thousands and thousands of blog posts. We have a whole new project that's just coming out, 110-100, that you and I will talk about later. So yeah, it's all tools and products and content to help people use video better.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, and I loved the episode on the Seeking Wisdom podcast that talked a lot about the way that you guys have built an audience and developed your brand over the years. For anyone listening to this that doesn't listen to Seeking Wisdom, go check out the Exceptions episode that highlighted Wistia there. Definitely checking out as well. We'll link that in the show notes. Chris, really excited, like I said, to get to the lessons you guys learned and making a move that seems kind of counterintuitive in the tech startup space these days, kind of goes against the grain. But really to get there, I think we need to provide a little bit of background. So tell us a little bit about, founding the business before you guys kind of got to the point of, like you said in your blog post, overscaling a bit. You guys kicked around a lot of different ideas, tinkered with some things between you and Brendan and a lot of things early on in the business, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, we had no idea what we were starting when we started. We thought we were going to work on a project for 6 months and then we would sell it to Facebook or we would fail in obscurity. And what we learned was it was really fun having our own thing because no one told us what to do. We got to make up new stuff every day. And we also learned that you have to make money to survive. And for us, we were really fortunate. We were able to stretch our savings through living in a 10-person house about a year. And we had very meager savings, but we were spending so little on food. We were spending $15 a week on food for each of us.
Holy cow.
And which was insane. And the way we were able to do that was because we had these 10 people. And we were home for 3 meals every day, and everyone else would have like dinner or like whatever every other day or something. So Brendan and I were really getting away with a great deal. And we always have been focused on video. We always have been focused on like this big technological shift that was happening with online video, and took us about a year to find our way to like the kernel of what Wistia is today.
Mm-hmm. And in the blog post, you talked a lot about scaling through creativity in those early days, and really, other than being able to scrounge by on $15 a month for food, which there's your founder's hack right there, I guess. In finding a way to keep the meal budget to $15. But tell us a little bit about the role that creativity had in scaling the business once you got to, okay, we've kind of got the kernel of what we're doing. We're leaving some of these other projects behind. This is what we're scaling on. Some of those creative elements that helped you guys reach that next level.
Yeah, it's funny. I think when you are first starting out and no one's paying attention, you just have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And even as we started to find traction, we had a lot of time and we had a lot of stuff that wasn't working. When you're faced with a lot of time, a lot of things that aren't working, you just come up with wild ideas. At least that's what we did to like fill the space. Mm-hmm. And it was also like a really important moment when we became profitable, because we'd have an idea and we'd say to ourselves, like, let's go try that. And like, if it doesn't work, what happens? Like, well, we wasted a little time, but like, it's not going to put us out of business. We don't need the growth to hit next month or we're in trouble. It kind of removes this stressor and allows you to take more risks. And it worked for us. Like, we basically started doing content marketing and we started teaching people about things that had nothing to do with our products, and which seemed crazy. And it turns out that those were the things that resonated, and those were the things that let us build audience. We did a lot of things that don't scale. We were like, sending out tons of t-shirts, and which doesn't seem like a crazy idea right now, but back in the day, we were sending American Apparel t-shirts when most people were sending like really, really crappy startup tees. And so people would tell us like, oh, your shirt's my favorite one. That's the one I wear all the time. The most comfortable. And that was like a bet that we weren't going to send shirts to have them be ads. We'd send shirts to have them be like someone's favorite shirt. And if we could do that, we could probably build like a strong brand connection, but it'd have to be person by person.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about this. I thought it was interesting that the term you used in the blog post, you guys talking about developing profitable confidence about this time in growing the business.
Yeah, I think profitable confidence is this idea that when you're profitable, you're in control of your destiny in a way that you're not when you have to get another check. And when we became profitable, for better, for worse, like we were able to trust our own instincts more and move with more certainty on things that usually you would think you have to have a lot of certainty on. Like a good example of this is we heard at one point that you could get a truck to drive around a billboard for like really cheap, like $1,500. Mm-hmm. And we thought, that's crazy. I wonder if there's some way we can like get a benefit out of this. And we started thinking, we're like, oh, let's just find a place where there's a conference happening. We'll just get our billboard like driven around. And then we wanted to put on something on the billboard that would be really funny and in there for anybody who already knew us. We didn't think we could convince people with a billboard like buy. Like we didn't think that would work, but we thought if we put something that was a little bit more like insider joke thing, that might work. And so we basically just got a billboard with our company mascot, unofficial mascot, Lenny, a Labradoodle, sent it around HubSpot's conference. And there was another conference called Business of Software happening at the same time. And the number of people who took photos of that billboard was very high. most people would look at this and be like, this is a complete waste. Billboards can't be worth any, you're going to get nothing out of it. And actually the reality was we were able to, because we didn't need it to work, we were able to do something a little bit more confidently that actually worked really well.
Today's growth story, software and hardware firm with a footprint of over 100,000 employees. This company was struggling to engage with partners across a variety of territories and sales focuses. So with a goal of penetrating white space accounts and growing their premier partner base, this company implemented a solution rooted in data intelligence and channel enablement to engage with over 400 partners. This resulted in 122% partner growth year over year, coupled with an MQL to SQL conversion rate of over 78%. So what was this magical solution that produced such amazing results? MRP Prolitics. MRP Prolitics is an insights-powered account-based marketing platform with streaming predictive analytics baked into its core. Integrating multi-channel ABM execution on these insights, MRP Prolitics triggers display, email, direct mail, and global inside sales in real time, helping the largest marketing departments in the world deliver the right message to their customers at just the right time. So could MRP Prolitics work for you too? There's a real good chance it could. Find out by visiting mrpfd.com or click the link in the episode description of this interview. All right, let's get back to the show.
I love it. So that kind of stands in contrast to really the next phase of the business where, you started to look around. In the way that tech companies grow is they raise more money. And it kind of led to this growth at all costs mentality. You said in the blog post, we started shifting efforts towards projects that we were confident would accelerate growth in a matter of months, rather than things that you just believed in from a qualitative perspective, right?
Yes, exactly. We basically treated it as if we'd raised like $20 million because we had enough revenue growth, we had enough cash that we could basically hire far ahead of revenue. So when we started doing that, and then, it flipped around, so we're no longer profitable, you think to yourself, if I keep hiring more people or I keep spending more ad dollars or whatever the thing is, and it doesn't turn into revenue, I'm going to be pretty far in the hole. And so as you think about it like that, you do an ad campaign, you do something else, and then you want the return quickly. Because if I'm spending an extra $300,000 in May, I want it back. I want it in June, I want it in July. And if you don't see it, then it gets kind of devastating because it's like, what happened to that money? And I found that that's just completely different than when you're profitable and you're taking those types of risks, because you're not sitting there thinking like, I have to get it back. You're sitting there thinking like, I believe in this. I hope it's going to work. Let's see if we can figure out the signs that tell us it works. And you're just able to do different things.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like there was this disconnect between you had to do and the things that in your gut you just believed in that were really part of the way that you guys were scaling the business before, right?
Exactly. And I think there was definitely a distinct difference, and it just made it harder because also when all the companies are looking at all the comparables are raising a lot of money, and they're all putting it to work and they're building giant teams, it's easy to think that revenue growth comes from raising money and building big teams. When the reality is, you can look at other companies, like you can look at Basecamp that still has 50 people or something, is doing unbelievably well and is the counterexample to this. And it's hard to see that because we can't all see inside everyone else's company.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the next season, when you guys got to the point of you've been through this season of what you called overscaling, and really you met this fork in the road of selling the business or the decision to take on debt and continue building the company internally.
Yeah, so we were at a moment, Brendan and I were both not as happy as we had been. We didn't really see that happening. It kind of crept up on us, but the business, we were trying a lot of stuff. A lot of it was very short-term focused. We had put the team through a just huge amount of change, spinning up tons of new projects, killing tons of projects. When you're growing a company or growing headcount really, really fast, everything breaks. And so everything was just breaking and breaking and breaking. And we had the opportunity to sell the company. And people had poked around in the past, but
Mm-hmm.
it was weird because there's 3 companies that all approached us at the same time. So I thought, that's interesting. Maybe something's going on. And so we started taking those conversations seriously, and we started doing that partially because we were unhappy. And we were faced with this decision, which was, do we go down this path and sell our company? And then we know we have these problems that we've created, and now we're going to work for somebody else. So we're going to try to solve these problems. And I had gotten advice from somebody who had sold their company and told me that when he sold his company, he worked even faster to solve the problem. And he fixed the problem with his company, but he did it. And then he kind of like lost his baby. He lost his platform. And Brendan and I talked about what we would do if we would sell, and realized if we were to sell, we would try to build a company like Wistia again. We kind of knew the people we'd want to hire. We knew the style of work we'd want to do. We knew that we'd want to build a strong brand. We knew all of these things. And as we were faced with this decision, we eventually realized, actually, we bet on ourselves in the early days, and it has paid off till this point. Is there some way we can bet on ourselves again and move forward? And we decided not to sell. And the second we did that, it created a miss on angel investors, because obviously they want to return, and they had invested in a while before. But we also have been giving stock options to the team. And so it also meant if we're not going to sell the company, we have to do right by the team. And so we looked at all the different options that were out there, which was like raising growth money and getting a secondary round. We talked to family offices, the opportunities of creating joint ventures and all these different things. And we hit on this idea of raising debt so that we could fund more of a buyback of the shares. We could offer a deal to the team and also to our investors. It was like the same price for everybody, and give them a real option. They're like, hey, this is your option. This is your moment for liquidity if you want to get it. We're going to keep going. We're going to build this profitably for the team. We're going to switch to profit sharing. If you want to be a part of it, we want you to be here. We understand. And we were deciding this obviously at a moment that was a little, things were not all rosy.
Right.
So it made it a little bit more scary, I would say, for the team in particular, because they're like sitting here seeing that we have problems and issues and stuff. But we decided to do it, went through the process, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing since.
So how long has it been since you guys made that decision? Tell us a little bit about the growth and the after effects that you've seen since then.
Yeah, so we made the decision at the end of last year in October, communicated to the team in October, did the buyback in November of last year. But we haven't been able to talk about it because the firm we worked with to do the deal couldn't talk about it until July, long story. And it's been great. I mean, it's actually accelerated revenue growth, which is very counterintuitive. And we've also become profitable, which is great, much more profitable than we needed to be based on our plans. It's really exciting. And I think it's come back to focus. Everyone knows what we're trying to do now. They know the direction we're going in. They know why we're here. And, there was a tough period where people left the company too, because some people didn't want to go the direction we're going in, or were afraid of the direction we're going in. But it's now on the other side of that. And so it's really exciting. It's really fun. I mean, the energy is just really, really good. And we're launching great stuff. We're doing different work. We're acting with profitable confidence.
Yeah. It's great to hear it come full circle. One of the things you mentioned, I want to round this out with, as much practical takeaways for our audience as possible, Chris. One of the things at the bottom of your blog post you mentioned was, selling and IPOing aren't the only options. Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe one or two other, key lessons that you think that really were born out of story for you guys that other founders or other folks growing teams could walk away from.
Yeah, I would say growth and profitability are not mutually exclusive. People would hear we were really profitable and they would say, that's crazy, you could be growing faster. That's not always true. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you have a channel to growth where you just throw more into it and very quickly there's more growth. Great. But it's not always linked the way that it's discussed as being linked. I think the fundamentals of how your company is structured matters. The fundamental incentives matters. And if you're raising money, which many businesses need to do, it's a great thing for many companies. Like raising our angel money was super helpful. Try to understand what the implications are, please. Like, what does it mean 3 years down the line? What does it mean 5 years down the line? What does it mean if you have a success on your hands, you love what you're doing, but you're not $1 billion company? Ask those questions up front, because it gets a lot harder to ask them later. And I think that probably the biggest lesson is, like, there are a lot of companies like us. There's a lot of companies that are fantastic private businesses that their revenue is, it might be 10 million, it might be 50 million, it might be 100 million, and they're profitable, and they can put the employee experience, the customer experience in front of other priorities, which is like very exciting. But most people don't actually share those stories, because a lot of those companies don't want anyone to know how well they're doing and how much their teams love working there, because they don't want anyone to come in and try to poach them. There's lots of competitive reasons not to disclose this, but they're out there. And I would say, like, look for them and try to find a way of building a company that aligns with you and your personality and your psychology. And I think that if you can do that, then you can keep working on it. And that's almost like part of the challenge in and of itself, is like, how do you stay persistent and how do you stay long term?
I love it. Well, on that note of reasons not to share the story, I really appreciate you and Brendan being so open about sharing this story, because I think there are a lot of lessons, and you touched on some really great ones there, Chris. We are going to link to also, I think you guys released a video on Q&A of folks since you made this announcement, talked about it. A lot of interest was there. So we'll link to that in the show notes as well. We are going to follow up this episode with another interview with Chris, talking about, scaling through creativity. We touched on a little bit there. We'll be talking about a project you guys are going through right now to test the balance between budget and creativity. So tune in tomorrow if you'd like to hear more from Chris. But let's wrap this up, Chris, with other than some of the resources we're going to link to, what would be the best way for anyone to follow up with you, to reach out, ask any follow-up questions, or just stay connected with you and Brendan and the team in general, Chris?
Yeah, I would say best way, Twitter. I'm C Savage on Twitter. And I try to write about what it's like building Wistia, the company, at savagethoughts.com, and also on the Wistia blog, which you can get to by going to wistia.com/learn. So I would say check out all this stuff. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, ideas, please share them.
Awesome. Well, Chris, this has been a great conversation. Looking forward to another one for tomorrow's episode. Until then, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.